Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you all for your testimony. And I think, actually, Mr. Zai, I think you're right. We can't come up with a solution. And I think especially for someone who, like you, figured out a way to get himself, herself back into a position where you could be gainfully employed, I think ultimately that's what we want to do. And when our previous leaders had the vision to come up with a program like Social Security, it was essentially for that, because most people want to pick themselves back up. And so I thank you for everything you're trying to do to help us get there. I just want to make sure I clarify a couple of things. Because we talk about this stuff because we know we talk SSDI, we talk the lingo all the time, but most Americans probably wonder what the heck we're talking about. SSDI is not SSI that some people hear about. SSI is a supplemental security income, which is an income for low-income Americans that you get not because you worked and paid into it, but because you're low income. SSDI, disability insurance, Social Security disability insurance, is not welfare. Welfare you get whether you worked or not, and it's because you're in a difficult circumstance. SSDI goes only to Americans who, as Mr. Zelli pointed out in his testimony, you worked. Not only did you work, but you paid taxes into Social Security to be able to get those benefits. So every time you work and you see that paycheck, you see that deduction, it goes for Social Security. It's for your potential retirement or your potential, like Mr. Zelli, to become disabled, or unfortunately for some, if they die, it's for your survivors. That's the purpose of Social Security, that three-pronged system, right? And folks should be very clear. We're not talking about some welfare program. No, you paid into it, right? At the same time, I think we have to be clear. All of us as Americans who've been paying into the Social Security system have provided the system more money than it needs right now to pay out all benefits, to the tune of close to $3 trillion, which we right now in the trust fund. And that's to help Americans, whether they're getting ready to retire or by some misfortune become disabled, they can get those benefits. This so-called 20% cut, it's not a cut that's required in law or a fait accompli. It's only because 20 years ago, when the formula was created by Congress on how to distribute the Social Security dollars that we contribute through our taxes into the pots of money for retirement, disability, or for our survivors, was off. 20 years ago, would we have known exactly? Actually, they actually knew that they were only providing about 20 years worth of funding for DI out of the pot of money that Americans are contributing. But that doesn't mean that we should cut disability insurance for Mr. Zelli or folks who had disability insurance simply because we didn't put the right amount into each pot 20 years ago. We've got the money, Americans have paid for it, so this 20% cut is fictitious if we want to be serious about Americans who've earned this. And again, remembering that most Americans who are on disability, SSDI, work for over 20 years paying into the system. Having said all that, let's also make sure that we get rid of another confusion. There are about 30 million Americans, working Americans, who are disabled. Not all of them qualify for SSDI. Only the most severely disabled do. That's why only around 9 million of those close to 30 million actually receive Social Security disability insurance. So the population we're talking about is not all disabled Americans, it's those with the severest of impairments. And the folks that we're talking about specifically today aren't just disability insurance beneficiaries, it's those who are trying to go to work, because so many of them have no opportunity to go to work. In fact, there's a study that shows that close to 1 in 5 Social Security disability insurance beneficiaries die within 5 years of qualifying for the benefit. That's how disabled they are. Okay, so now we're talking about this universe of those who really want to work. I think there's universal agreement here. If we can help them get to work, if we can provide incentive, let's do it. But I think Mr. Teaberry's chart was very illustrative. If I looked at that chart correctly, this offset to me is troubling, because I look at this chart, and for those who want to work and start working, if you start doing an offset so that you lose a dollar in benefit, disability benefit for every $2 you earn and work, just about everybody that earns less than $1,100 is going to lose, come out a loser at the end of the day. So I ask a question to anyone who wishes to answer. Are we in this to create an incentive program that creates winners and losers, where the less able to work are punished to try to help those who can work?
Time of the gentleman has expired.
I thank Mr. Larson for yielding, and let me just pose it again quickly because I don't want to use up any more time than necessary. So if you do the offsets, if you start to, at a lower level, to remove some of the disability insurance benefit for money earned, so in the case of this example given, if you lose $1 of your disability insurance earned benefit for every $2 you make in wages, and you start it early, instead of at $1,090, which is the full disability benefit, you started early, you got a whole bunch of folks at that early stage, up to $1,000 or so, who are getting cut their benefit, even if they have a chance to earn money. Many of them are not able to earn that much, but they still get the cut. And so my question was, are we interested in creating losers in this? Are we interested in punishing people as we try to create an incentive to let those who can, as Mr. Zelli was able to, earn more money? And so are we looking to punish those who don't have the ability to earn more money?
I am not in favor of whacking somebody's benefits, just to state that, but I think there's a perception issue that I'd like to address, if I may, Congressman, and that is that when you see that international symbol, and we see it when we park. You've got it here at Congress, we have it at businesses, we have it in our life. We see that international symbol. I wear one that shows somebody carrying a briefcase, meaning that people with disabilities can work. When we see that there's this stereotyping, we're talking about mental illness specifically, when you see that, you think, well, what is that? That's someone who needs help, needs a parking spot, medical problem, needs public assistance, lacks education, not working, is a drain on our society. There but for the grace of God go I. Or do we see past that wheelchair, past the eyeglasses, you're not bound, and see a person who is dependable, as lawyers, businesses have found out, dependable and motivated and loyal and healthy. They're not sick. I don't need to be healed. I'm working. I have education, talent. See that, and see that they're with the grace of God, go I. So my point is we had this tendency to think that everybody's really poor. Well, they're poor in a system that doesn't work well. That's the reason they're poor. The expectation should be higher, starting early, starting very early with parents. And even at the low teenage years, that yes, there's an expectation of work, and that yes, you'll be part of our society and community, and we have a support system that will bring you on that journey.
And Mr. Zell, this is Mr. Larson's time, so if I could just ask if anyone else wishes to comment on this, I open it up to you very quickly because I know Mr. Larson probably has other questions.
Sorry, thanks.
Yeah. Congressman Becerra, I really agree that this is an insurance policy. And if we start the offset below the current SGA level, we are effectively cutting the insurance payments for a certain group of individuals. At the same time, we have to recognize that we're talking about people at the subsistence level, at the poverty level, and a reduction in insurance benefits as they make up for that by increasing their earnings may, for some individuals, be a path to greater self-sufficiency. So it's a delicate balance, but your point's well taken.
Thank you.
Time of the gentleman has expired.